As riders, sometimes it feels like we're losing over and over. We're fighting the story, the industry, ourselves. Sometimes we just need a win. When every sentence feels harder than it should and you just don't see any progress happening, it can start to feel like you're spinning your wheels. There's a reason we feel like this. And today we're going to talk about what that is and what it does to us psychologically every time we sit down to write. Starting today, y'all, we are going to win. There's one important lesson that teaches us how to do this, and I'm reminded of it every single time I'm in the mountains. Now, I'm not as good a teacher as the mountains are, but I'm going to do my best. Take a deep breath. You've made it to the writing woods. There is no pressure here. We're not worried about being the best. We're worried about doing the best we can. And if you're looking for more folks who are building sustainable, lifelong writing practices, head over to writingwoods.com. We'd love to meet you, and we're going to be opening a new space in the Writing Woods soon. It's designed to help you get to know your fellow writers more deeply, create accountability, and foster that passion for writing that you already have. The link to the waitlist is down below. There's one lesson that I learned over and over in the mountains. I do a lot of hiking and backpacking in the Smokies, and they teach you real quick that you've got to press on. Once you start up that mountain, you can't stop until you are at the top. It gets you used to the feeling of doing hard things and actually accomplishing them. We learn that joy and a feeling of achievement comes from hard work. And that feeling of, I can't do this, will pass. We learn that we can carry on past the point that we think we can. We learn how to put one foot in front of the other, even when it feels like we are not making any progress. And y'all, sometimes going up those steep climbs, 30 pounds on your back, and you feel like you are standing still. But you learn how to make the small wins count. Just make it to that switchback. Just a few more feet. Just one more step. And you say that to yourself over and over. We learn the things that help us keep moving. Even when it feels like we don't have any energy left. Even when we are down to the dregs. And we learn how to put ego aside. You might start the trip moving 3 miles an hour, but at some point, you're going to be toasted, low on calories, going up the steepest section of trail. At this point, it'll probably start raining. You're slogging through the mud, knowing you have 5 more miles of climbing. And you have to put one foot in front of the other. And remember that all you have to do is keep moving. You're not hiking 3 miles an hour now. You might not even be hiking 1 mile an hour. But as long as you keep moving, you will get there eventually. And when you do top that steep climb and see how much elevation you've gained, even when it felt like you were making absolutely no progress, that feeling is amazing. Hiking is amazing for helping us develop the skill of working through hard things. Because it is a skill we have to practice. You get used to knowing that you will reach the top no matter how hard it feels. And you learn to lean into the hard work. And while this is great practice, it doesn't always translate directly to the writing process. First of all, it's easy to stop when writing gets hard. When you're on a long hike or a backpack and things start getting tough, you can't really just throw up your hands and call it a day. You've got to make it to the cars or the next campsite. There's no four-wheeler up there waiting to take you down. But when we're writing, it's easy to just put the pen down and do something else. With writing, your mountain is all internal, and you have to consciously decide to keep climbing every single step. Every single word. The second difference is that as long as a 30-mile hike can seem, it is nowhere near as long as the process of drafting a novel. When you are writing, your mountaintop is way in the distance, and you've got a big uphill climb. A full day of slogging barely puts a dent in the work you have to do. And y'all, that makes us feel like we're losing because we turn around, look back, and we see we've done a little bit, but man, we have so much farther to go. The first thing we need to do is start treating writing like a through hike instead of a day hike. Yeah, you've got that big summit in the distance you're shooting for, and you'll get there eventually. But every day you sit down and you're putting in work to get over this mountain and get to the next campsite. That's what you win at. But what are these daily mountains we're climbing. When you're hiking, it's pretty dang obvious. It's the big rock sitting in front of you. But when we're writing, our challenge is internal. And that means we're responsible for determining when we succeed, when we get to the top. That can make us feel like we keep climbing and climbing without ever finding that elation that comes from doing something hard and seeing the success. So we never learn that putting one foot in front of the other, even when it's slow, will eventually get us to the top. We never see that in practice. And without that knowledge, without that lesson, it gets harder and harder to keep putting in the work. Especially when with writing, unlike with hiking, we can stop at any time. As writers, we need to create our own mountaintops. Instead of thinking about that final summit in the distance, finishing the manuscript, think about the mountaintop you're striving for each day. What is right in front of you today? It could be writing one sentence or one page. It doesn't have to be big. In fact, it's better if it's not. We're not trying to hike 3,000 miles in one day or write a whole book in one day. The goal is progress. Reaching the top of one steep hill each day. All right, now we have a goal we can actually complete. But even when we reach our goal, it may not feel like a win. Here's why. When we're hiking and we reach a mountaintop, we look out at the view, we feel the chill of the elevation, we look back down the trail and see the miles we covered. But when we reach our writing goal, all we have are words on a screen. And that is not enough to give us the rush of success. And even when we accomplish our goal, even when we are successful, we still feel like we're losing. Here's my solution. I have a whole video about this I will link, but the quick version is decide what your goal is each day, make it small, and every time you do that goal, do something like dropping a paperclip in a jar. What we're doing is creating change in the real world that gives our brains evidence of our success. It's giving ourselves that little dopamine hit and showing the accumulation of our work over time in a physical form. That jar full of paper clips is the equivalent of the view when you get to the top of the mountain. When we're hiking, we get the evidence that we're making progress. Even if it's slow, we can look back and see that we have moved down the trail. We have to give ourselves the same thing for our writing. Decide on your goal, on your mountaintop for the day. And then when you've completed it, mark it. Give yourself evidence in the real world. And you'll start experiencing that feeling over and over of doing something hard and reaching the mountaintop. Your brain will start to realize that doing the hard thing leads to a feeling of accomplishment, not just more slogging. And it'll get easier and easier to stick with it. Because if we're Sisyphus pushing a boulder up a hill, it's going to get really hard to keep putting in that effort. And if we have an escape hatch, we're going to take it. But if we know that putting one foot in front of the other will eventually get us to where we're going, and if we feel that, then we'll be able to keep making that slow, diligent progress. The distractions and procrastination won't be so enticing and so difficult to ignore because we know what we're doing. One step at a time. It's steep, it's tough, but we're gonna get there. And y'all, just like with hiking, we don't need to start with a week-long backpacking trip. Start with a walk in the park. Instead of setting your sights on writing 30 pages a day, write one sentence. If you write more, great. But by sitting down to write, you have still reached your goal. And you still get to see how much progress you make over time. Teach your brain that the work is getting you where you need to go, and build your tolerance for the slow grind required to reach your destination. And when you have the chance, try to do other hard things. Go hiking, go climbing, work a tough puzzle, and notice every moment it feels like you can't do it. And when you reach the top, look down and remember all those moments. Think about every time you told yourself, I'm gonna have to stop. But then you just kept going, kept chugging along, and guess what? You made it to the top. Do that every day. Tackle those little hills every day. And if you keep making slow progress consistently, you will reach the summit in the distance. I'll see you there.